Some things in life just feel like second nature, right? Like breathing or maybe riding a bike after you've gotten the hang of it.
Hmm.
Conversation feels like one of those things. We do it constantly, all day, every day. It's just talking.
Seems simple.
Yeah. But if it's so simple, so natural, why does it so often feel surprisingly difficult, maybe awkward, or even, well, downright chaotic sometimes?
That's exactly the puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what we're diving into. We navigate this really complex landscape of conversation constantly, making, countless tiny decisions
Oh,
without even thinking about it.
right.
And yet, unlike learning a skill like, say, golf, where you get immediate feedback or maybe you have a coach,
Yeah, or video replay.
exactly, mastering conversation isn't intuitive in quite the same way. The feedback loop is missing.
It really isn't. And this deep dive is all about cracking that code, understanding why it feels tricky, and how, based on some really compelling science, we can actually get better. We're pulling insights from some fascinating material that looks at conversation not just as this sort of nebulous art form, but as a skill that's fundamentally backed by, well, scientific understanding.
And that lack of clear feedback you mentioned,
Yeah.
that's a massive barrier. We rarely know how we're truly coming across.
So true.
The material shares this perfect illustration
Hmm.
where the author was analyzing a video recording, thinking it was her own conversational style, noting things she liked or cringed at,
Okay.
only to realize halfway through it was actually her identical twin sister, Sarah.
Wow, no way. Mistaking your own twin for yourself. That really drives home how hard it is to get an objective sense of how we are in conversation.
It really does. Our own perception is just, well, so distorted.
Yeah.
But the truly good news, a kind of central promise of this material, is that science does offer a clear path to improvement.
Okay, that's encouraging.
It is. Even small, intentional adjustments based on these insights can make a dramatic difference in your relationships, your professional success, and just your overall impact when you talk with people.
So it's absolutely not something you're either born good at or not. It's a skill you can actually sharpen.
Precisely. It involves being more aware of the context you're in, getting clearer on your own purpose, and crucially, trying to understand your partner's purpose,
Purpose. Okay.
and learning to anticipate and solve those little snags that inevitably pop up. The way it's framed is like learning jazz improvisation.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Yeah, you study the underlying structures, the patterns, the scales, and then you use that knowledge to improvise together, aiming to understand and, genuinely delight each other.
A collaborative, vibrant exchange. That's the goal.
That's the goal, and that leads right into one of the core concepts from the source material.
Okay, let's unpack this. What does the science say conversation fundamentally is? What's happening under the hood?
Well, it's presented as a complex coordination game.
A game, like a prisoner's dilemma or something.
Sort of, yeah. Think about games where multiple players are making choices simultaneously without explicit communication, and the outcome depends on how everyone's choices align. Conversation is that, but like infinitely more intricate.
How so?
You're juggling a relentless stream of micro decisions. When to jump in, what tone to use, how to react to what they just said. It's constant.
And you're constantly trying to figure out what the other person is trying to do with their words, their purpose, like you said.
Exactly. Discerning your partner's purpose in speaking is highlighted as maybe the most fundamental element you need to grasp.
Right.
And you're also reading the room, right? The broader context. I love the anecdote in the material about the philosopher Kant trying to impose strict rules on dinner parties.
Oh, yeah. What did he suggest?
Like, weather first, politics later, jokes only at the end. He was trying to simplify the coordination, make it predictable.
Good luck with that.
Exactly. Conversation isn't a scripted performance like chamber music.
Okay.
It's messy, it's spontaneous, and it requires constant on-the-fly coordination.
Which sounds exhausting. I mean, how do we even begin to navigate that kind of complexity?
That's where the talk framework comes in. The material offers this as a powerful, memorable reminder for making conversation more vibrant, more enriching, and frankly, more effective.
TALK. Okay.
Yeah, it breaks it down into 4 crucial, mutually reinforcing elements. Topics, asking, levity, and kindness.
Ah, okay. Guiding principles, not rigid rules.
Exactly.
And they absolutely interplay, right? Like asking good questions helps manage topics. Levity can soften sensitive questions.
Precisely.
And choosing topics that show you know your partner's interests is, well, that's a form of kindness.
You got it. They all weave together. So let's kick things off with the T topics.
The building blocks.
The fundamental building blocks, yeah. The key insight here isn't just finding abstractly good topics, but effective topic management. It's the dynamic process you and your partner navigate together to find that rewarding common ground.
And there's a finding related to topic prep that really surprised me, that study with the HBS students.
Oh yeah, the 30-second prep.
Just 30 seconds. They spent just 30 seconds prepping topics before a conversation.
Yes. And they compared those conversations to completely spontaneous ones. The students rated the prepped conversations as significantly more enjoyable.
Really? Even with just 30 seconds?
Even with just 30 seconds. Even the student mentioned, Josh, who went into it totally skeptical, was genuinely surprised by how much better it felt. It shows that even a tiny bit of forethought pays huge dividends.
That's incredibly actionable, just thinking for half a minute before you chat with someone.
Absolutely. And then there's the idea of the topic pyramid the material describes.
Okay, what's that?
You start with small talk at the base, kind of depersonalized stuff like the
Yeah.
weather. It's essential for, social lubrication.
Sure, gotta start somewhere.
Right, but lingering there too long can feel dissatisfying. The aim is often to move up to tailored talk, connecting topics to your partner's specific interests or experience, and potentially reaching deep talk at the very peak.
So instead of just asking what's new, which is super abstract,
Yeah.
tailoring it would be like, what do you love most about living in this neighborhood? Or maybe, how did you get started with painting?
Yeah.
Making it concrete gives them space to actually explore.
Precisely. It opens things up.
Mm.
And paying attention to when a topic is done, that feeling the material calls being left with just pulp and seeds.
Huh. You've squeezed all the juice out, nothing left.
Exactly. Time to move on. And that connects directly to co-narration.
Co-narration.
Yeah, and truly engaging conversations. Listeners aren't just passive receivers. They're actively involved. They interject. They ask clarifying questions. They laugh. They provide those little back channel cues like, yeah, or uh-huh, or
Right, showing you're listening.
showing you're with them. This responsive feedback acts as co-narration. And crucially, it actually improves the speaker's delivery. It makes them better at telling their story or making their point.
That makes sense. You feel encouraged.
Totally. If you're speaking and getting none of that, just silence, well, you might just be hogging the airtime, and it's likely time to shift gears or ask a question.
The material also addresses the bravery it sometimes takes to raise difficult or maybe just weird topics. It shares that story of a friend, Carolina.
Oh yeah, Carolina. She wasn't afraid of the squirm-inducing stuff.
Right, like
that.
the Elizabeth Holmes baby situation or feminism's impact.
And remember how her willingness to shift topics, even from something originally uncomfortable like vaginal mesh, believe it or not,
Wow, okay.
how that shifted to family planning advice and then opened the door to a really honest discussion about the challenges of working parenthood and deep personal troubles. It ultimately led to greater connection.
That's powerful. Or the example of the Terry Gross interview with Carrie Fisher.
Navigating really sensitive topics.
Yeah, like her affair with Harrison Ford or her struggles with mental health. Skilled topic management turned potentially awkward moments into opportunities for deeper connection, even shared nostalgia.
It really did. And it suggests that minor digressions, especially to slightly weird topics you think the other person might actually resonate with, can be great for enjoyment and creativity.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to gently steer sometimes.
Okay, so that's topics. Let's move to asking.
Asking questions. This material calls it a unique human evolutionary gift. I mean, even young kids do it constantly, right?
Oh, stop. Why? Why?
Right, exactly. Whereas animals like bonobos, while really intelligent, they can respond, but they don't seem to initiate questions in the same way.
Huh. And the research presented here on the power of questions is remarkable. It's not just about getting information.
Not at all. Studies show asking questions dramatically improves your relationship with the other person and makes you better liked. There was that study where strangers were told to ask more questions.
Yeah.
They were consistently rated as better liked by their partners compared to those who didn't get that instruction.
Just by asking more questions.
Just by asking more questions. Yet, we often hesitate, don't we? Especially with potentially sensitive questions.
Oh, yeah. Feels intrusive sometimes.
It does.
Mm.
But there's a study mentioned where people drastically overestimated how uncomfortable asking things like salary or relationship status would actually make others feel.
Really?
Yeah. And between friends, asking even sensitive questions often had no negative consequences at all. Our internal fears are usually far bigger than the reality.
That's good to know. There's that compelling classroom demonstration, too, with the $100 bill.
Oh, I love that one.
Students tried all sorts of clever persuasion tactics to get it.
Right, making arguments, pleading.
And the student who simply asked politely, may I please have it?
Got the money. It just highlights how we sometimes overcomplicate things and overlook the simple power of a direct question.
It really does. So asking is powerful, but what does not asking well look like? The material points out some common pitfalls.
Definitely. Like the dreaded boomer ask.
Ah, the boomer ask. Explain that one.
That's when you ask a question, but you aren't actually listening for the answer. You're just using it as a preface for something you want to say.
Like, have you heard about X? And before they can even answer, you launch into your opinion on X.
Exactly. Well, I was reading about X, and I think it just signals a lack of genuine interest. You're usually better off just stating your point directly, if that's what you want to do.
Right. And then there are gotcha questions. Those are awful.
Yes. Clearly designed to make the other person look wrong or foolish. They're threatening and just shut down conversation instantly. Malicious intent, basically.
And closed questions, too. They can be conversation killers.
Yeah, questions like, did you go to that new restaurant?
Yeah.
They invite a yes, no, or a very limited response. They can feel transactional, like you're just checking a box, not really curious.
As opposed to open-ended questions.
Right, like, what did you think of that new Mexican restaurant? That gives your partner latitude to explore their experience, share details, offer opinions, much more engaging.
And the real superpower here, the thing that elevates asking from just getting information to truly connecting,
Yeah,
that's asking follow-up questions, isn't it?
absolutely. That is the key. The example of the sisters, Emma and Samantha, is perfect, even without changing topics much.
Yeah.
Emma's consistent focus on asking follow-up questions about what Samantha was saying, like, oh, really? Tell me more about that feeling. Dramatically increased the conversation's enjoyment for both of them.
Yeah.
It shows you are truly listening and are genuinely interested in more.
That makes total sense. It shows you care.
It does. There's also that fascinating point about the authenticity paradox.
Right. The idea that trying to ask more questions, like deliberately using a technique, can feel kind of fake or manipulative.
Exactly, like you're gaming the conversation. It feels uncomfortable, maybe even inauthentic. But the research consistently shows that asking more questions does lead to positive outcomes like increased liking.
Even if it feels a bit scripted to you.
Even if you feel like you're just reciting lines from a script, as the material puts it, the positive effect on the other person is real. And data from analyzing things like sales calls, using tools like Gong, supports this. Asking more questions is strongly linked to better outcomes in those high-stakes contexts, too.
Interesting. So the outcome is good even if the intention feels a bit strategic initially.
Seems that way. Okay, moving to L, levity.
Lightness, humor.
Exactly. And this is crucial for preventing conversations from getting stuck or just, dying out, especially in potentially awkward moments like first dates or when things feel tense.
It's more than just cracking jokes, though, right? It's about creating a certain atmosphere.
Precisely. Levity doesn't just bring conversations alive, it brings us alive. It ties into the broaden and build theory of positive emotions.
Broaden and build.
Yeah, the idea that feeling positive emotions like amusement or joy actually widens our perspective. It encourages play, exploration, and creativity, which helps with connection, attraction, even longevity.
Whereas negative emotions narrow our focus.
Right, think fight or flight. Narrow focus, immediate threat. Positive emotions broaden. The improv principle, yes and, aligns perfectly with this idea of building on each other's contributions in a playful, positive way.
And the material highlights that we often underuse levity, especially as we get older.
Yeah, there's data showing the percentage of people reporting smiling or laughing a lot daily actually decreases as they age, which is kind of sad.
It is. And maybe unnecessary.
Probably. Because our anxiety about using humor is often overblown, people tend to overestimate how often humor goes poorly or falls flat.
Right, you worry about bombing.
Totally.
Yep.
And we underestimate how often it actually goes well, boosting mood, closeness, how competent people think we are, even social status. Context is key, of course. You have to read the room. But our fears are often much bigger than the actual risk.
So how do you inject levity? The material gives some practical ideas. One is compare and contrast.
Yeah, creating funny juxtapositions. The John Mulaney example is classic. Him talking about doing cocaine the night before his college graduation.
Right.
Contrasted with being terrified of getting a flu shot now. Or the difference between kids wanting Sour Patch Kids for breakfast and adults obsessing over fiber.
Huh.
That contrast is inherently funny.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Introducing slightly off-the-wall topics can also work surprisingly well. Sharing a strange but relatable detail, like the example given of caramel from a Twix getting permanently stuck in your teeth.
Okay, random but relatable.
Exactly. It can be surprisingly memorable and fun. While it might feel like a weird digression, minor detours like that, especially to something you think your partner might enjoy, can really boost the conversation's fun factor. Don't be afraid to be a little quirky.
And the easiest, lowest risk way to support levity.
Just laugh when someone else makes a joke, or even just chuckle appreciatively. It encourages them and keeps the mood light. Simple, but powerful.
Okay. And finally, within levity, the material talks about something that felt really counterintuitive to me.
Right.
The power of flattery. Ah, yes, flattery. Compliments.
Compliments, even if you suspect they might be slightly insincere, can actually lift the mood. That feels wrong somehow.
I know, it sounds odd. But the anecdote about the friend Dave, who's really well-liked despite maybe repetitive or possibly insincere compliments, illustrates this.
Okay.
And there's a marketing study mentioned. Customers rated flattering messages like, "You have excellent taste," as more effective than just plain informational messages, even when they knew the message had an ulterior motive like getting them to buy something.
Wow. Even when they knew it was maybe fake.
Even then, the material suggests that while we intellectually recognize the potential insincerity, maybe the positive regard itself taps into a fundamental human need to be seen and appreciated. It just sort of warms the room, regardless of the motive's purity.
That's fascinating, and maybe something to experiment with cautiously.
Perhaps. Okay, the final letter in TAC HEC is K kindness.
And the material makes a really critical point here. Conversational kindness, at its core, is about listening, but not just passively.
Exactly. It's more than just active listening with the nodding and the eye contact. Those help. It's about responsive listening.
Responsive listen.
Using verbal cues and that back-channel feedback we talked about. Yeah, oh wow, tell me more. This isn't just passive receiving. It's active co-narration. It demonstrates you are truly engaged, making the speaker feel heard and supported.
And you said it actually improves their delivery.
Yes, it actually improves their ability to articulate their thoughts clearly and compellingly. We crave that affirmation, that sense that someone is really tracking with us, especially when we're sharing something vulnerable.
So responsive kindness makes your partner feel seen, known, valued, and just good to be with.
Perfectly put. The example of the songwriting conversation between Claire and John is great for this. Claire didn't just listen, she used incredibly positive language. Great idea, you killed it.
Yeah, very encouraging.
Acknowledged his feelings, shake off those nerves, and provided those enthusiastic verbal back channels. Remember?
Yeah. Like she was really into it.
Exactly. That kind of responsive verbal affirmation is incredibly powerful. And conversely, disrespectful language is incredibly damaging. The study analyzing police officer language during traffic stops is sobering. It found disrespectful language was strongly correlated with more vehicle searches and citations.
Wow.
And heartbreakingly, it found police use significantly more respectful language with white drivers than black drivers, showing how pervasive disrespect can be and how it deeply erodes trust, not just interpersonally but institutionally.
That's devastating. And it spreads, right?
Yeah.
Witnessing incivility.
Yes. Witnessing incivility, even if it's not directed at you, can make us less respectful and more likely to disrespect someone else later on.
Yeah.
It creates this awful, vicious cycle. So consciously avoiding mirroring rudeness, even when provoked, is really vital.
Okay, so Tello gives us a great foundation. But even with those tools, conversations can become difficult. This often happens when we touch on deep differences, right? Especially differences tied to identity, gender, race, religion, core beliefs.
Exactly. It's like those differences are the core, as the material puts it, and conversational friction can create fissures that go all the way down to that core identity.
And those moments risk making someone feel unseen, undervalued, maybe attacked. And that can trigger deep defensiveness.
Precisely. So how do you navigate those moments without just shutting down or escalating into an argument? The material highlights receptiveness as a key skill.
Receptiveness.
It's a mindset, really.
Yeah.
A mindset of remaining genuinely interested in understanding and validating your partner's perspective, even when you're feeling stressed or you fundamentally disagree with them.
That sounds incredibly difficult when you feel challenged or misunderstood yourself.
It absolutely is. It takes conscious effort. But there's a practical receptiveness recipe provided, which can help structure your response.
Okay, what's the recipe?
First, acknowledgement. Simply repeating back in your own words what your partner said. Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying, or what I'm hearing is, this makes them feel heard, confirms understanding, and catches misunderstandings early. Makes sense. Step 1. Show you heard them.
Step 2, affirmation. Attaching a positive evaluation to something they said, even a small part. That's a really interesting point. Or, I can see where you're coming from on that aspect. Or, thanks for sharing that perspective. People crave validation, even tiny bits, especially in disagreement. It's like that improv rule again. Treat your scene partner like a genius. Find something to value.
Okay, acknowledgement, affirmation. What's third?
Third is flagging points of agreement amid disagreement. Explicitly stating what you do agree on, even if it's just the premise of the conversation. Okay, we clearly see the solution differently, but I absolutely agree with you that the underlying problem we're discussing is real and needs attention.
Finding common ground, even if it's small.
Yes, because we have this natural tendency to fixate only on the disagreement and forget any common ground exists. Highlighting it counteracts that. And there's an exercise mentioned where students applied these three techniques: acknowledgement, affirmation, flagging agreement, to hot-button political issues.
Oh boy, how did that go? The results were apparently transformative. Students reported the conversations felt amazing, eye-opening, and even so fun, which is probably the last thing you'd expect from debating contentious politics.
Wow, that is counterintuitive again. Why does focusing on agreement and validation work so well, especially with difficult topics?
That gets to the core insight about the receptiveness mindset. It involves consciously elevating the goal of learning about the other person's perspective, really trying to understand why they see it that way, and actively squashing the goal of persuasion.
So you stop trying to win the argument.
You prioritize understanding over winning. And here's the really counterintuitive part. When you genuinely focus on learning and understanding, you actually become more persuasive indirectly.
Yeah.
Because your partner feels heard, respected, validated, and therefore becomes more open to considering your perspective.
Huh. So letting go of persuasion makes you more persuasive.
Kind of, yeah. People drastically underestimate how much they can learn from disagreements and how open others might actually be to hearing differing views if they feel respected. Often, we just dismiss someone we disagree with as simply being a bad listener, when maybe we weren't listening receptively either.
That Tom Brady joke example really illustrates how identity barbs feel so invalidating, doesn't it?
It does. The joke, assuming a heterosexual identity, just landed like a barb for the LGBTQ plus students because it failed to recognize their core identity, making them feel unseen and unvalued in that moment.
Or the elder care example where the brothers avoided discussing their mother's care.
Right, because they had such conflicting identities around what it meant to be a good son in that situation. Those are the deep fissures that make conversations hard.
And perspective getting through asking genuine questions, offering validation, practicing this whole receptiveness thing. That's the crucial pathway to bridging those differences and fostering understanding across them.
Exactly. And managing your own emotions in those moments is also key. The material mentions cognitive reappraisal.
What's that?
It's basically reframing your negative emotions. So if you feel anxiety rising in a tough conversation, you consciously try to reframe it as excitement or anticipation. It helps you manage your internal state so you can stay receptive. You can even gently nudge your partner to reframe their emotions through the way you phrase questions.
Interesting. And sometimes just changing the scenery helps.
Absolutely. If a conversation is truly stuck or getting too heated, simply shifting the context can work wonders. A physical change, standing up, going for a walk together, changing rooms, or even inviting a neutral third person to join can dramatically shift the mood and the dynamic.
Good practical tip. Okay, what about group conversations? This material is very clear. They are categorically different and way more complex than one-on-one.
Oh, absolutely. The coordination game becomes exponentially harder. More people means more potential for misunderstanding, more competition for airtime. It often leads to more inherent chaos. And the material stresses. That's normal. Don't feel bad if group chats feel messy.
A huge factor is status dynamics, right?
Huge. Status, basically how much respect or prestige you have within that specific group, significantly impacts who gets airtime and how much they get. Higher status individuals tend to dominate the conversation, often without even realizing it.
And that creates real challenges for lower status members in the group.
Definitely. They often get less airtime, feel constrained in the topics or jokes they feel comfortable introducing, and might feel pressured into just kind of impression management, using jargon, laughing politely, or just staying silent altogether.
And when lower status members stay silent, the group loses their valuable input, their unique perspectives. It's a real double bind for them and a loss for the group.
It really is. However, the material points out that even low-status members can momentarily act as topic leaders by gently nudging the conversation, maybe offering encouragement like, "That's interesting, Sarah. Can you tell us more about that?"
Mm.
Or subtly shifting the focus by suggesting getting drinks or changing the subject slightly. Paraphrasing what others have said is also a great low-risk way for lower status members to contribute meaningfully without demanding the spotlight. So, summarizing what I'm hearing from John and Maria.
Good strategies. And for larger groups, the material suggests you often need more explicit structure, some guardrails, because the natural chaotic patterns can become really dissatisfying for everyone.
That's where someone might need to step in as a conversational steward. Two key tools mentioned are partitioning.
Partitioning.
Yeah, breaking a large group into smaller, simultaneous conversations. Think about friends gathering at a bar. They naturally split into smaller clusters of 2 or 3 for more intimate chats.
Okay, makes sense. And the other tool?
Centralizing. That's focusing everyone's attention onto one shared conversational thread. This might involve more formal turn-taking, following an agenda, or having one person hold the floor for a story. You lose some spontaneity, but it allows for shared information dissemination or focus.
And groups can actually switch between these modes, right?
Absolutely. Like the Thanksgiving bar example in the material, where smaller groups partitioned off for chats, then the whole group centralized again to hear someone tell a particularly good story.
Or that lovely regalia Christmas feast example.
Oh, yes, where the traditional bread-breaking ritual temporarily transforms the large, potentially chaotic family gathering into orderly, peaceful pairs for intimate one-on-one wishes and conversations before returning to the larger group dynamic. It's a beautiful illustration of structured group conversation done really well.
So the takeaway is, bringing many minds together will always be a bit of a kerfuffle, as the material nicely puts it.
Yes, a kerfuffle.
And that's okay. Awareness of the dynamics and some intentional stewardship can help manage it.
Exactly. Finally, let's talk about apologies. This material highlights their incredible, almost magical power as tools for healing strained relationships.
Yeah, they're described as pivotal inflection points on our closeness lines.
Closeness lines, I love that term. That evolving trajectory of a relationship over time, where individual conversations, especially difficult ones or apologies, are like the knots that shape the line's path.
But apologizing is hard, isn't it? Why is it so difficult?
It involves real risks, right? Your partner might not forgive you. They might reject the apology. It requires vulnerability, exposure, and it demands humility, a willingness to admit you were wrong rather than focusing on being right or protecting your positive self-view. Plus, we often see our own transgressions very differently than the person we harmed does.
That example of Tony Hayward's BP apology, "I'd like my life back," is cited as a classic bad apology.
Oh, absolutely terrible. It downplayed the actual harm suffered by others, calling it a disruption versus, loss of life and livelihoods, and it lacked genuine remorse or clear culpability. And the later details about his salary and yachting just amplified the perception of insincerity.
So what makes a good apology, according to the material?
Several key elements. Sincerity is paramount, obviously. Then, taking clear responsibility, no excuses, no blaming, expressing genuine remorse for the harm caused. Often, some self-castigation acknowledging your error strongly, like, "I was a jerk," or "that was a thoughtless thing to do."
Owning it fully.
Owning it fully. And crucially, promising to change your behavior and then actually doing what you promised. That follow-through is vital for rebuilding trust.
The Tashira and Drew relationship example is really powerful here. Tashira's first attempt.
Yeah, that's snippy. Okay, I'm sorry. That was actually harmful. It made things worse.
Right. But later, after Drew bravely shared her vulnerability, what you just said really hurt my feelings. Tashira gave a full, sincere apology.
Yes, with all the elements. A direct, "I'm so sorry," taking responsibility, expressing remorse, the self-castigation. And it was genuinely healing and satisfying for Drew. It repaired the rift.
And research seems to back this up, the parole hearing analysis.
Right. Studies analyzing parole hearings show that inmates who acknowledged responsibility for their actions and expressed remorse, key elements of a good apology, were more likely to receive parole. Whereas those who made excuses, like "I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time," were not. Words matter.
What about timing? Does an apology have to be immediate?
Timeliness helps, of course. A quick apology captures a moment and shows immediate awareness. But a belated apology isn't worthless. It can allow for deeper processing, maybe more genuine reflection, and crucially, the ability to show actual behavioral change over time, not just promised change. They can also sometimes benefit from the emotional detachment that comes with time passing.
Like the story of Anil and Dev, who rebooted their friendship after 2 years apart.
Exactly. Div reached out, clearly having prepped topics and questions based on Anil's interests, injecting levity, listening responsively, applying all these skills, and then offered a really heartfelt, direct apology. I am so sorry, Anil, for how things ended.
And Anil was taken aback.
Totally taken aback, and then apologized in return. It shows that the window for repairing closeness, for using that powerful tool of apology, isn't always closed. It just requires courage, humility, and often applying many of the conversational skills we've been discussing.
So we've taken this really interesting deep dive into conversation. We've seen it not just as, natural chatter, but as this complex, ongoing coordination game.
Definitely complex.
But the great news is, it's a game with underlying patterns and principles like the talk framework, topics, asking, levity, and kindness that we can actually learn and improve upon. It's a skill.
Absolutely a learnable skill.
We've touched on navigating those difficult moments, using receptiveness, managing the unique chaos of group dynamics, and understanding the profound power of sincere apologies to repair our relationships, our closeness lines.
It really is a continuous pursuit, isn't it? Of understanding and maybe even delighting each other, an improvisation built on learned patterns. And the material reminds us it's okay for it to be messy sometimes.
Yeah, perfection isn't the goal.
Not at all. Even the boring or awkward moments contribute to a full, psychologically rich life. Not just the peak exciting ones, it's all part of the texture.
A key takeaway for me, woven through all these insights, seems to be this strong emphasis on putting the other person's needs and perspectives first.
I agree. Asking genuinely caring questions, listening generously and responsively, showing that receptiveness even when it's hard, and actively supporting their efforts to communicate and connect.
It really is a continuous process of observation, adjustment, and, well, compromise, isn't it?
Constantly calibrating, yeah.
So, thinking about all this, given that we are constantly making these tiny micro decisions on the fly in every single interaction, what small intentional adjustment might you decide to make in your very next conversation, maybe even today, to better understand or connect with your talk partner?